everybody. Welcome to Unscripted, where we're all about having and inspiring better conversations and thinking more deeply and critically about faith, life, and leadership. I'm Sam, and I'm excited to be here with my good friend and pastor, Mike. How are you doing? We have had a very interesting, fun weekend.
It's been a very busy few days
Yeah.
in church, in good ways, all good, but busy, different than any time else in the last 19 years. So a new stretch of days for me.
Yeah, for sure. So if you aren't aware, there's a really big announcement that took place this past weekend that kind of talked about the future here at RCC. And if you haven't listened to that, I'm going to post a link in the video right now, so you can click on that and go and just watch the announcements. You can get up to speed, watch that. It's like a 5-minute announcement. You can get totally up to speed with that, and then click back to here. And with that, we're not going to spend any time on the announcement itself.
Good thing. I was worried about that. I want to go back over the whole thing again. So
exactly. So we're not going to do that.
Yep,
but there's a big change happening. And what I want to ask you is, it's not happening right away, but there is this change happening. And so I want to get to that. And first, before we get to the actual change and why it's happening, beginning to happen now and all that kind of stuff, I want to get to, there's something you're hoping to do, and we have talked about it for literally years. And I just wanted you to talk to that for a second.
Yeah, it goes back all the way. I mean, 19 years ago, I really saw this need for a new church in Ripon, and it was an obedience thing to God. I really believe He showed that to me, and maybe showed me a little bit of a path of how to do it, and it was a pure obedience thing to follow Him. Shortly after being here, He showed me that there's a lot of hungry people in this area, and we need to do something about it as a church. And it took 4 years before we had the food pantry and thrift store. It was 4 years of work before we could launch it, but I believe that was a God-led thing. Years later, he I believe said to me that we needed another option for people to get together in town and build friendships, and we even offered church services there, which is Mug's Coffee House, and that took a few years to put in place before we actually did it. This is very much like that. There's been this feeling in me for years, but it just was never the right time. It wasn't like God said, go now. He said, it's there. You see these things, you should do these things, but it was never like I saw the green light to do it. It was just more like the information was out there, like billboards were out there to say, this is something you care about, and it's coming someday. That's what we're really talking about right now. And we've talked for years about trying to help people find a way to God that are very far from God.
Yeah.
People that would have a hard time going to any church at all, no matter how good the church was or what style or denomination or whatever it is, none of that. Just to go to any church. Like half of America is that way. And so there's been this desire for so long to try to do something to reach half of America that won't go to any style church. So that's been there for a long time, that desire. And then also over the years here at church, it pretty much happens weekly where I interact with someone who has needs for counseling beyond what we can offer here at church. And I just can't find enough really good counselors out there, especially counselors with faith, that can help people and help people use their faith to heal and to have a better future. So the desire to address that has been there. And then the leadership thing too. Like we've done Leadership Academy here at church, and a couple hundred people have come through it and I think really benefited from it. But the desire to help people lead their own lives, and then have that translate into churches and into businesses, do things for churches and businesses using faith has been there for me as well. So it's kind of like all three of those things have been brewing for a very, very long time, and we've touched on them over the years, but now has just been the time where God has said, this is it. Now it's time to do it.
Yeah.
I hope that answers it.
No, it definitely does. I mean, you got into the specifics that I really wanted to just talk about for a second. One being just specifically, you have had, for as long as I've known you, this knack for being able to strike up conversations with people who have no interest in faith whatsoever, and have this be something that's like they can talk to you about it and excited. Yeah. And you've always cared so much about that group of people.
Yeah, the reason is God loves everyone and wants everyone to be close to Him. And it's just so sad to me that someone could think that God isn't for them or faith can't change their lives. Whatever they've experienced from age 0 to 20 and came up with that conclusion, or 0 to 60 and came up with that conclusion, I just want to help them to see it differently. And it doesn't have to look like anyone else's idea of faith or a certain idea of how church should be. It's a personal thing. And generally, when you can get on that personal topic, people do want to talk about themselves and about God and how they interact and questions. It's a fun thing to talk about if you're not trying to push someone into anything, if you're just having a discussion.
Yeah.
Kind of like us here, like this unscripted deal, right? We just talk, and you don't have an agenda to try to get me to see it your way, and neither do I. And people are the same with faith. If you just start the conversations, it's a fun thing to talk about, free of judgment or pushing in a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that just always has excited me.
Yeah. It reminds me, you told me a story of spring break for you way many years ago, and how your wife Janet got talked to multiple times by these people that were trying to spread the gospel, right?
Yeah, a million years ago on spring break, before we were there at the same time, but we weren't dating yet. She had like 3 different people approach her about faith or church or whatever on the beach, and tried to share faith with her. And she told me about that later, and I was really disappointed because no one approached me.
No one did.
Because I look like the jerk no one would talk to about faith. It was probably kind of scary. They probably thought I'd be a jerk about it. So they avoided me, and they talked to her because she was a nice girl and sweet, and she was easy to talk to. So it's always kind of, and that was before I even had faith, right?
Yeah, totally.
So it's always been there for me. Like, wow, I want to talk to people that everyone else thinks don't want to talk about faith, because they actually do. Yeah. But it's just different. You just start the conversation differently, and you do it without judgment or fear, and it's fun. I really, really like it. If wherever I go, I can end up talking to someone about faith. When I was in the hospital, I talked to hospital workers about faith. If I go to a bar, I end up talking to people about faith. It's just natural, and it should be natural for everyone. It should be something we're afraid of, like, oh, don't talk about faith or religion or whatever, or politics. If you do it right, you can talk about anything. But it comes from a point of mutual respect first.
Totally. I completely agree with you on that specific point. I do think that some people are gifted that ability from God. There's just some people who is so natural. I think people that it's not natural for, we should work to become better at it. It's a normal thing. Yeah. But for some people, it's just so real. And I think you definitely have that. So that's fun for me to hear you talk about that, because I know that about you, and I know that's part of maybe some of the seeds of what you're thinking of in the future. And I love that.
Yeah, over the years, I've discovered it again and again and again. So often you can see someone, and you might sort of be judgy about them. And you look at the outward appearance, and it's like, oh, there's someone who doesn't have any faith or doesn't like God or whatever. And that's just so false.
Totally.
Their moment by moment actions might look a certain way, but that does not reveal what's actually in their heart.
Yeah.
So it's so fun for me to see that in people.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to comment on just for a second is you talked about counseling and leadership, and honestly, over the years, I've gotten to see you do both of those to a level that I haven't had a chance to see anywhere else. I mean, I've seen you counsel people, and that's as a pastoral way, so it's not necessarily completely the same, but it's very similar, and you've done an incredible job of doing that for so many people. I think there are countless stories of people who have had the chance to work with you, and you've been a huge help in their life. So I'm excited for you to be able to do that more.
Me too.
And then not just that, but leadership. I mean, Leadership Academy, I've gotten to do that this whole time with you. I mean, last number of years that we've done it. And man, every time I miss it because we haven't been able to do it because of COVID. We've taken a break from it. I hope it comes back in some fashion. I'm excited about that. But I remember sitting in those meetings and hearing you talk and like learning every single time. I've heard it like 3 times, but every time it hits me different. And I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, that's a giant passion for me. I really, really love it. And here at church, I've gotten to do it a lot with individuals, either through Leadership Academy or one-on-one. So I'm still excited about continuing to do that. But I'm also excited about working with other churches or even businesses. Like we've had some people that are business people that have come through our Leadership Academy, and it's really helped them in their business. So to be able to go into businesses and help them perform better and lead better within the business, not even just the leader, but the whole place, is really compelling to me. Because I think you can bring God to work with you. I mean, some people are totally against that, but if you're not afraid of it, to bring your faith to work can make the work environment so much different. And treating your boss or your employees within your faith, treating them as they should be treated with faith, makes the business better and more profitable. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about helping businesses that way. And that spreads Christianity and faith and Jesus following all over the place. You don't have to come to church on Sunday to experience people living by faith.
No kidding.
That super excites me, because it takes the church on Sunday attendance out of it and takes it everywhere, into schools, onto teams, into businesses, and that's okay. That's a healthy thing if you do it right.
Yeah, absolutely. So that all being in mind, this is kind of some of the background. Like we've talked about this for a long time. You've always had this idea, and you've just kind of maybe used me as a sounding board or other people's sounding boards, and it's been fun over the years. Why now? So why are we after all these years, now is the time to begin the process? I know we're not happening immediately, but why now?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't want to come off like I know everything. Like I think now,
Sure.
and I think it's from God. But the now or not now and everything in life is always a God thing. It seems like as you go through life, there's certain times when you're supposed to do this or that and certain times when you're not. Sometimes people say it's like an open window or a closed window or whatever. And so I've had these thoughts and desires and ideas and plans for so many years. And it does feel like now, I think it's a God leading right now for two kind of specific reasons. One is all about RCC. We're just in great shape right now. I'm super excited about the health of our church. I don't think it would have been, now in hindsight, it would not have been good timing any time before COVID.
No kidding.
Because COVID has just messed up churches all over the world in ways no one would have ever expected, just kind of like out of the blue. So I'm so happy I've been here through COVID. It's been a terrible, difficult time in church, but I'm happy I've been here to help see the church through it. So now that we're coming out of COVID, and we'll certainly be more out of it in the next year, I think I need to be here for that. I think God didn't want me to leave. My feeling is God didn't want me to leave until we got through that. I just never knew it was coming, and He did.
Yeah.
So our church health and the excitement for our church and our church growth, everything is on such an upswing right now post-COVID. It's the right time because of the COVID recovery. It's the right time because of our church health, and the ministry is expanding and growing, and each ministry is getting better in different ways. Youth ministry is getting better in different ways. You can go through any one of them.
Yeah.
We're now bringing back the littler kids on Sunday morning for our school age kids. And
so much
that's
fun.
taking off again, and there's so much positivity. Our worship ministry is amazing. It's just, if you haven't been to church, come to church and check it out. Close your eyes, forget you're in Ripon, and you'll think you're somewhere amazing. It's just, that's what I do. That's my little secret.
Ripon is amazing. Just kidding.
No, but no, I don't mean like Ripon itself. I mean, you'd think you're at some tremendous concert.
I completely agree.
There's 5,000 people, and you paid $100 a ticket.
Yeah.
And you're hearing this amazing music. You're like, oh, I must be at a concert. And then you open your eyes, and it's like, wait a minute, we're at church here in Ripon. That's how I feel on Sundays.
Yeah,
it's just amazing. So it makes it more difficult to leave. This Sunday, like I was tearing up in the back, even in practice before the service, because like, I don't want to leave this.
Yeah.
This is amazing. But it's God's plan, not my own, right? So there's our church health, there's post-COVID, and actually there's you. We've been together for so many years now, 11 years. I need to be sure that church continues healthy and growing and all that. It's kind of like this is my family and or my child almost, and my child's going off and get married, and you get to choose the spouse,
Yeah.
So I'm just excited about the continued leadership here from you first, from the rest of the staff as well, and from the leadership team. We are so solid. So those are the church reasons. The personal reasons are a bit more personal. I'm not afraid to talk about them here, but it would take forever. Yeah. So if someone wants to know more about my personal stuff, let's get coffee, let's get lunch, and you can ask me anything. That would be super fun. On the personal side,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
is there one personal thing you can share? Like, is there like one thing?
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. We've done some exploring in the Milwaukee area, just trying to check things out, and stuff just keeps happening. Yeah. I'll bump into someone and we just start talking like, oh, you're interested in that? Well, wow. Can I hear more about that? And like 2 seconds ago, you're a stranger. Now you're asking me a million questions, and it just keeps happening and growing. I can't do anything without something really, really exciting happening, but out of the blue. Like, it wasn't like I strategized it and went in with some plan. It just happened. So it's just been so fun, because afterwards, like, wow, well, I don't know what God's doing here, but this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like I'm like running to catch up with what He's doing.
You've said some things in the past. You add fuel to where the fire is. And when you can see a fire, some kindling, like it's starting to grow, if you can add some fuel, who knows what will happen. And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I think that helps just for people to know, like, one, it's not like an immediate thing. Like this isn't out of the blue. This has been something that's been, you've been thinking about it, having to wrestle with it for a number of years. Almost
really from the beginning of church. I mean, church started so well and so healthy and grew so much. There were so many other churches calling then and saying, hey, do you want to come here and lead this church or that church? I mean, those opportunities have existed from day one here, and sometimes like really cool places, but it just wasn't the time. And, like I talked to Janet about her, maybe a couple of friends about it, and I was like, wow, this is like 5,000 person church in this amazing place and blah, blah, blah. But I just knew that it just wasn't the time. But the ideas have been there, but now's the time. And it's like people said to me a little bit like, oh, it's going to be so amazing. The church is going to be so big, and you're going to have this mega church. That's not the dream at all. I don't know that it's going to be amazing. I don't think it's going to be some mega church. It's going to look so much different than what we do here. So the plan isn't for big and amazing. The plan is just go do what God tells me to do and see what happens.
Yeah.
And who knows?
So like, 2 weeks from now, you'll start your first thing. I'm being silly, right?
Yeah,
Like, I'm joking.
No,
because,
people have said it too.
yeah.
Like, when does the church start? A long, long time from now.
Like, what does that mean? Like, what is a long, long time from now?
Well,
happen?
first of all, we talked a bit about establishing the Christian counseling organization first. And there's just so much groundwork that goes into that first.
Tons.
And then you get to work on the church stuff. I already am full-time here. So that's like a couple hours at night or whatever on the weekends. You can't make a ton of progress that way. So really the real work isn't going to start until the new year.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit along the way.
Because nothing's changing here.
Correct. Yeah.
through the
I'm
end of the
still
year.
here full time. Like,
Yeah.
but we wanted to tell the church as soon as possible, right?
Yeah.
Like I hate knowing things about church or myself even that everyone doesn't know. I just prefer all the information to be out there.
Yeah.
So no one's ever like, wow, what's going on? I don't know. I hate that. I'd rather just have everybody know. So we're way early in this announcement. However, once the new year starts, generally it takes about 1.5 years from the start of really working on a new church launch to actually having a new church launched. You can look back to this church. It took me 1.5 years here. All the people I've coached, it takes about 1.5 years, maybe a little more, a little less, but about 1.5 years every time. Right back to just Aaron DeMaster, who was just here and left to go to Fond du Lac. He worked on starting the church in Fond du Lac for a long time and moved to Fond du Lac and did a ton of work,
Yeah.
for a very long time before there was actually a church service. So no, there's not any church starting anytime soon. It's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's part of the process. I've done it myself. I've helped others do it. I understand that.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple things. One of the things you mentioned was that people have made comments to you. I'm curious. You made a big announcement this weekend. How have people reacted? What have people said to you? What's that been like?
Yeah. There haven't been as many comments as I thought so far.
Yeah.
But it can be hard. Like, what do you do? Send an email or whatever. It's just so much easier in person. And a bunch of people talked to me after church, after both services last Sunday. But how long are you going to wait? Like, there's other people talking, and so I'm thinking I'm probably going to have lots of conversations, which are fun for me actually. So there haven't been as many as I thought there'd be so far. However, the ones I've had, either by email or in person or phone call or whatever, have been exceptionally positive. Some sadness, right? Like, it's someone who likes me and we have this great relationship. So there's some sadness that someday I won't be here. But also excitement for me and for this new opportunity, right? People can see, like, yes, I mean, most people see it. Yes, there is a need for more Christian counseling out there. Everyone sees it.
Definitely. That's something.
If you have a lot of friends or coworkers and stuff, that there's a need for it. So they're excited about providing for that need in a faith-based way.
Yeah.
People are like truly excited about that. And then the idea of a new church, people are excited about that too. So lots of excitement, a little bit of sadness, and then some really, really good questions.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. So it's been fun. I mean, I know we talk like this is like the beginning of a long process. It's going to take a while. But this last weekend, I mean, you were talking about it. I was talking about it, like getting emotional, like just even listening to the worship.
Yeah.
Because it just felt like there's this shift that is just aware now.
They got to tone it down. I don't want to be crying every Sunday. You can only hide it so well in the back of the room.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So
how about you though? Like, what are people saying to you and asking you, and what are you hearing about?
Yeah. So it's been a really interesting process. I don't even know how to describe it exactly, because on the one hand, they're feeling what I'm feeling, and that's sadness, like knowing that at some point in the future you're not going to be here quite as much, and that's a long ways off. But just knowing that there's some sadness because you're such an integral part to this church and been so big as a part of this and making this. It exists because you took a leap of faith. So there's that, and that's very real. But in the same token, I've been really, really grateful. People have been incredibly encouraging. It's hard to know what people are going to say because, I mean, I've been here for a long time. I know a lot of people. I feel close to a lot of people, but you never really know if they're going to be like, oh, yeah, you're the guy, or, yeah, I'm glad you were number 2 and now you're leaving. Like, that's kind of what you have that fear, right? Like, that people wouldn't trust you. And people have been time and time again excited about it in our conversations, and sad, but also excited, knowing that there'll be a loss, but then also some possibilities for the future. And whenever
what are you excited about? Like,
oh man,
what are you going to change tomorrow? Like what?
Like 2 weeks in, we're going to change everything. I'm just kidding. That's the thing. That's the beautiful part. Like, this church is so healthy and so good and is doing so many amazing things that I don't feel like there's a lot of crazy change that needs to happen. I'm just excited to keep the momentum going. And I joked with you a little bit. When everybody that's given me some kind of advice, like don't change anything for a year or whatever, and I thought about that for a while, and I thought to myself, well, that might be kind of weird here because we are such an experimenting church. We're always trying new things, always trying different ways of doing things. If things work, we do it. If things don't, we just stop. So if I don't change anything for a year, that might be really weird.
That'd be weird, yeah.
But
You're right.
man,
That's kind of who we are.
Yeah.
What about this? Okay, so since I've got you on the hot seat right now for a
Yeah,
second,
sure.
I've kind of flipped the script here.
I like that.
What do you think about your interview with the leadership team? Because for me, that was really, really odd. No one knows how it works, but we've been together 11 years. I know you so well.
Yeah.
I had a certain expectation of how that interview would go. I wasn't one of the interviewers. The leadership team was, but I moderated the deal.
Yeah.
And so I was in there listening, and I'd hear their questions, and I'd have my thoughts about what maybe I'd hoped you say or whatever. But how did you feel about it?
Man, I was so nervous. Like going into it when I walked into the interview room with Meg was with me, my wife. And once I got sitting down, I was fine. But leading up to that night, like I've barely done any interviewing my whole life. Like that just has never happened. I've been here for 11 years. Like I haven't done a lot of interviewing. But I was just really nervous and wanting it to go well. But once we sat down, I just loved it. I loved it because there's something about when people ask hard questions and like you're on the spot and you have to answer. And I'm so excited about this church. I'm so excited about where it's headed. I'm so thrilled with the people that we have. I mean, we have the most amazing people. So to be able to talk about that with a group of people that really are invested and excited about this church as well, it was just really fun.
Good. Well, it's funny you mentioned the nervous thing.
Yeah.
You might think that could be a negative.
Totally.
It was actually a positive.
Oh, good.
Here's a secret. One of the leadership team members told me after the interview they were happy to see that you were nervous.
Really?
Because their thought was, after being here 11 years, you might think, well, all right, I'm set. Everyone already respects me and I'll just whatever. They were really happy that you took it so seriously and it was so important to you. So the little bit of nerves, and I don't think you displayed a lot of nerves. I was there, but a little. And they were so happy they saw that because it just showed how much it meant to you and how much you respected them and the importance of the role and everything. So there you go. I don't know if that's maybe a hint for anyone out there interviewing. It's okay to look a little bit nervous.
Totally.
That's okay.
That's good to know. I'm glad that, I try to just be as honest and fully myself as I could be. I didn't want to take this for granted. This is a huge, amazing church, and the ability to be respected enough to lead it is a huge honor. So
you and Meg did so well. Like I'm sitting there moderating this deal, and I'd hear the question and think, oh, it's a tough one. And then time after time, both of you your answers were just so good. So when I got home and talked to Janet, that was the first thing I said. It's like, I'm so proud of them. I was a little nervous at times. 10 years, I wanted to say anything stupid. Yeah. Like where did all the training go after 10 years? But you guys just crushed it. So it was fun to be in the room, more observing than part of it.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, honestly, the leadership team itself, that group of people, it was fun to see how much they cared. Because I've interacted with them all before, on and off, but to have them all in one room and talk to them in that way, I could tell they've invested a lot of their passion and excitement into the church. So it was
look
really
at the
cool.
results of their leadership for 19 years.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
You can tell a tree by its fruit.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
They've got a lot of fruit.
I have one more question. If you're okay with me flipping the tables back, do you have any
Great.
notes?
Yep.
Okay. Good
No,
deal.
I could think of some more, but
I'm sure you can. The one question I have for you is, and this may be a bit more sentimental. I've got legacy on my mind because in a couple of weeks we're gonna be talking about legacy and like ending well and like the 30 days to live thing. Like that's kind of a part of one of the sermons coming up. What do you hope your legacy is here?
That's a tough question, actually.
Yeah.
I feel in a lot of ways I've already experienced my legacy,
Yeah.
just from people's comments, especially, when someone says, like I've gotten some really nice notes and stuff this week. Someone says like, hey, you've been meaningful in my life or whatever. So the legacy for me is more individualistic. It's about each individual person more so than like a giant organizational legacy.
Yeah.
I don't really have feelings about that, but I have feelings for each individual person. So maybe that's not the answer you're looking for, but that's what's the most important part to me is those one-on-one personal conversations. That's what I want my legacy to be. I want people to say, wow, he helped me have a better life.
Yeah.
He helped me to find faith. He helped me to get close to God. I mean, something that made a difference in their individual life is what my legacy, what I want it to be. I think that's what I'll get to talk to people in heaven about. Like, hey, remember all those years we spent together in Ripon? Or remember when we did this one thing together and we'll get to celebrate that in heaven? That's the legacy I want, more so than any organizational thing. The only organizational part of it is I want RCC to continue to be a healthy church.
Yeah.
I think we've done so much over all these years to ensure that it is, and it just, for me, just needs to continue to be a healthy church. And there's so many different ways a church can be healthy, right? Styles or whatever. It's not about that. It's just about a healthy church that, I'll come back to it, that changes people's lives, helps people that are far from God start to know God, and helps people that already know God grow deeper and more committed and more obedient in their relationship to God. That's what I want for RCC, and I hope my time here helped establish that, a foundation for that.
Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. I think most people would say, or the easy answer is more organizational, but for you to be aware enough that like it's about people. Yeah. Like in the end of everything, it's always about people. It's never been organizational for me. I mean, you know that because you see me all week long, but people probably think that it is because it's a big organization. There's tons of people and it looks like something, and you're on a stage, but that stuff isn't what means something to me. It's each individual person's life that actually does. Yeah, that's really, really beautiful. And that's part of the desire to now go do this new thing. It's still about those individual lives that someone hasn't helped yet. Well, I want you to know like that also is not going to stop here. I mean, just to see people, that's the thing that I get teary-eyed about when I talk about, is to see, I was actually talking to somebody today, and they were just talking about the difference that Jesus has made in their life, and like having a relationship with Jesus and trusting God, and like how much they've changed because of it. And literally that moment, like every now and then I get those conversations where it just lights you up. Like that's why we're here. Yeah. That's what we're doing. And it makes me so excited. And I've been completely confident about you in that for years now, actually. So here's another interview secret from behind the scenes that you don't know about. I'm loving to get to hear this. So, before the interview, the leadership team, they all know you in certain ways, right? But they haven't seen you in that role as potential lead pastor. So they had a lot of questions, and what about this, and what about that? And good, the right questions. And I kept saying, trust me, I've been with them 11 years, trust me. But they're smart, right? And they're analytical. So they had to figure things out for themselves too. But then afterwards, right away, they're like, oh, he is so the man. This is amazing. And my only response was, I told you so. Why people don't listen to me? But they just haven't had 11 years with you like I have. So yeah. So they just were so impressed afterwards. And I can't wait for the entire church to see you more and more in that role, because they're going to love you too in that same way. Well, which is great for me. You talk about legacy. We talked about passing the baton, right? That's how this feels. Yeah. You've run alongside me, and so many others for so many years. And now it's your turn to carry the baton, and then myself and others run alongside of you. Yeah. You don't want to hand the baton off to some dude who's going to stumble and fall and ruin the team, right? No, you want a good person. Yeah, the fourth leg has to be someone really good. And that's how I feel. It's like I've done my part, and I'm going to hand, you're maybe the second leg. I was the first leg. Yeah. Right? Now you're the second leg, and there's going to be other legs in the future someday. But you got to feel really excited about who you're giving it to. Yeah. And I think our entire church will feel that in you. So that's good for me. Well, on that note, like the baton image is a really helpful image. It's kind of been seared in my brain. And I'm already thinking about, what's beautiful about it is I'm already thinking about who that third person will be someday. Yeah. And it might be, who knows, 20 years from now, who knows? But that fact is a beautiful thing. Like, it's not about a person. It's about a church being led well and growing well and changing people's lives. Yeah. And I think that's beautiful. Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, this has been really fun. As always, like if you have any questions, and this is one that may be a bit more personal to you, so don't be afraid to reach out to Mike and email, or talk to him on Sunday, or any of those kinds of things. I'm sure you'll love those conversations. I love questions. So and any questions, fine. Just ask whatever you're thinking. That's what I always tell people. Totally. And that's going to be open book for me as well. I mean, as we go into this next year, as we finish out 2021, I mean, we have a long ways to go yet before this actually takes effect, but be open with your questions. I can't wait to talk about this stuff. I am so excited about the future here. I'm so excited for you and what you're planning. God's doing awesome stuff, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. Thanks. And with that, thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Next week, we have an even more unique and different one for you guys. I can't wait for you guys to see that. You know what it is. We'll keep it a little secret because it's going to be extra fun. It's an experiment. It's us trying new things. Could be amazing. Mm-hmm. We'll do it again someday, or it could stink and you'll never see it another time. Exactly. Who knows? But it's going to be fun to at least try it. So make sure you tune in next week as well. And with that, thanks to you all for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week.